I know you might be thinking, here goes another random YouTuber that I don't give a fuck about going on to talk about who his MVP is and why he is always correct. And listen, even though I am, for the most part, always correct, that's not the main point of this video, okay? I'm not here to feed you some certain, MVP propaganda and why you need to change your mind and how Jokic and SGA, blah, 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 whatever it is, okay? That's not the point. But I do actually want to have a solid discussion on not only the award itself, but who is going to win it. So maybe there is a little bit of that in this video. Anyways, let's just get right into it. The reason why I'm making this video right now and not, anytime later on in the season when we get, closer to the playoffs or the end of the actual regular season is because we just watched arguably the top two players in the MVP race go head to head. We saw a back-to-back game. They played, I think it was 2 games in OKC, and that's a huge moment because the race between these two is probably one of the closest MVP races we've had for some time, but I think a majority of people can agree that it was in SGA's favor for the most part, so these 2 games were very important. Now, does Jokic care about winning the MVP, and is he going to try to put on a great performance so he can win the award? No, the guy does not give 2 shits. But either way, it was still an interesting game. And in the first one, it was clear that SGA was cooking those boys. I mean, SGA and the OKC Thunder as a whole. Pretty sure J-Dub had himself a really good game that night as well. I mean, it was a good game up until the end where they just absolutely took it away and there was no competition whatsoever. But then the second night comes around and it's like, oh shit, the Denver Nuggets won this one. Oh, okay, Jokic is doing his thing. I think he had damn near a 30-point triple-double, which is just kind of in classic Nikola Jokic fashion. But it's not even necessarily the 2 games against each other where I'm going to overreact and say, oh my God, this is a clear reason as to why this guy's the MVP. Because that shit was actually hurting my brain after the first game when SGA had himself a really good night against Jokic. Everybody was like, yep, there it is. That's all the proof we need. And it's like, bro, there is more to the season. But what I really want to go over is this tweet that I saw from Bobby Marks, ESPN NBA analyst guy, where he says, what is the criteria for MVP? Now, this has been a very big conversation just in general when it comes to awards, right? It's not only MVP where we have this discussion. We talk about this with Most Improved Player of the Year award. We talk about it sometimes with Defensive Player of the Year, where it's like, hey, should centers and guards, like, how can they be tested for this award? Like, what is the criteria for that? But it feels like the MVP award is always the biggest one that falls under this category where people just have different standards. They have different reasonings for why certain players should be over the other. And Bobby Marks has some good little points in here that I think are worth going over. For example, is it about being the best player? I'm assuming that this means, just best player in the world, kind of an individual player statistics, whatever. Then you have whoever impacts his team the most. So what does it look like when you take away that player from your team? And then third, you have team record. Or at the end, you have combination of all 3. But I feel like it's worth going over each one kind of individually because I think there's a different answer for each one. Starting with best player, I understand if you want to say that SGA is your answer here. He's leading the league in points. He's having himself an incredible, career year. But in my personal opinion, and once again, I'm not trying to persuade or give any propaganda here, but Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA right now. I'm sorry. That's just how I see it. I was never really a big Jokic guy. I didn't really like him when it came to the storyline of winning an MVP award. I just thought he was boring. He was plain. I know that that's like the most stupid logic to base the award off of. It's like, oh, he doesn't react good. But like, damn, that shit annoyed the fuck out of me. I think I've changed a little bit though when it comes to that, where I'm a little bit better now with, a guy like Jokic winning the award because he simply is the best player in the league. And I'm not just saying that because of the 30, 20, and 20, historic game that we've never seen in the NBA ever before happen. That's not why I'm saying that, just for the record. But that one, I will give you a toss-up, right? You could say it's SGA, you could say it's Jokic. I understand wherever your levels may lie. But the second one, who impacts his team the most? This goes to Nikola Jokic like every single time. And this is probably one of my bigger problems with this MVP award and, with, I guess, SGA being there. If you look at these teams, I'm not trying to say that Nikola Jokic is playing with a bunch of bums, okay? Jamal Murray, as much as I'd love to shit on him, he's a good player. Russell Westbrook has been out of his bag recently. Christian Brown has been great. You obviously have guys like Aaron Gordon, but Michael Porter Jr., like there are some talented players. They won a championship for God's sake. But if you compare like the 3rd best player on the Denver Nuggets to maybe the like sixth man on the OKC Thunder. The Thunder roster is just ridiculous. I mean, they arguably have the best depth in the NBA. There's no doubt about that, at least in my mind. And so when I look at these two teams and I say, you know, who impacts this team the most, it's easily going to be Nikola Jokic. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to take away from what, you know, SGA is able to do with his team and what he does with them as well, because, you know, they maybe wouldn't be the #1 seed without him, but they would still be good. But to me, if the Denver Nuggets didn't have Nikola Jokic, I mean, it's a completely different level. Then to round out the list, you of course have team record. And obviously for this one, it's, you know, it goes to the SGA Thunder. They're one of the best teams in the NBA. They're the best team in the Western Conference. There's no doubt about that. But to me, I don't know how much I value that when it comes to an MVP award. Like, obviously, if you're down in the 6 or 7 seeds, you should not win anything that calls you valuable. But if you're like in the 1 or, you know, top 3 or even maybe 4 range, that's kind of pushing it a little bit. But 1 to 3 range, I understand it. I think it makes sense. I don't mind, you know, team record being much of a factor though. But if I use this grid to determine who my MVP is, it comes out as Nikola Jokic, because I think Jokic is the best player in the NBA. I think he's the most valuable to his team, but he doesn't have the best record in the NBA. And that's something that I never thought I would say. I mean, if you go back a couple of months, you're guaranteed to find a video where I'm saying like Jokic should not win MVP. It's SGA's time. And that's also part of the problem, or at least why I think SGA is going to actually end up winning the award. It was actually a video from my good friend Jokic Joestar.
I think the fact that Jokic's MVP case right now is really like rising and falling with him actively doing cool shit that like injects him to the forefront of people's minds when they're thinking about basketball. Pretty good indicator that Shea is going to win the award. The fact that the standard was like, hey, Shea is probably going to win the award, and then you would just have these blips of Jokic doing something insanely impressive, like dropping a 30-20-20 game or something, where everyone would look around and be like, are we sure this guy isn't the MVP? Yeah, if it's the middle of March and you're looking around going, why isn't this guy the MVP? That's not like a really good argument for his case at that point. And I'm fine with that. Don't get me wrong, I think Jokic deserves every award that he won.
Chances are we're still going to follow through with the idea that SGA is going to be the MVP. Like, we're not going to let some March games switch everyone's brain into thinking, okay, yeah, now Nikola Jokic is going to be the guy, which I guess is somewhat understandable, but it is interesting to see that we're now like kind of reheating the MVP conversation, saying, well, just hold on a minute, let's not give it to SGA so fast, because Jokic is actually a good basketball player. But anyways, I'm very intrigued to hear what you guys think, so go ahead and leave all of your takes about the MVP award or who you think should win it. Even if you don't think it's Jokic or SGA, which you're probably just delusional, go ahead and leave those delusional comments down below, okay? I read and respond to everybody. While you're down there, if you can hit the like and subscribe button, that would help out the channel a ton. Okay, I will see you guys all in the next one. Later.